Good evening, people. How are we brewing tonight? Time for another Brews at 10 on my left eye. I'm your host, Lefty. You're all very welcome here this evening. PMQs. Another PMQs. After all, it is a Wednesday. Morbius, great to see you in the chats already. How are you brewing tonight? Good to see you, Morbius. Yeah, so back into it. Another Keith's catchphrases as well. So just in case you're not a regular viewer, every Wednesday I like to give a first time commentary and analysis of PMQs, my genuine first time response and reaction to it. Plus the latest on a couple of news stories as well. Davinia, good evening. Also, please make sure you've hit thumbs up on the stream. Helps to get the channel out there. Bit of a boost. Kit's great to see you as well. Yes, the brew crew. Slowly but surely arriving. Great to see you as well. Also, people, I need some feedback from you this evening. So it's good to see some of the brew crew here tonight. I was just hoping all the audios, apart from me coughing, that the audio is coming through okay to you. I'm actually using a new microphone for the first time on tonight's live stream. I've had a bit of a dabble with it to try and get it sounding optimal. It wasn't super expensive by any means. So please let me know if that's coming through nice and clear. Yeah, I think Helena is streaming simultaneously. Divinia. However, I'm stuck with a regular time for Brews at 10 anyway. Okay, so yeah. So the mic I used to use, I did have to do a lot of dabbling with to get it sounding reasonable. It still wasn't perfect really. But yeah, very glad that's coming through loud and clear. Oh no, Morbius, no, I wouldn't dream of buying anything from Apple. It's certainly nothing that posh or posher. But thanks for the feedback as well, Morbius. So where was I? Yeah, coming up as well, the latest, obviously. Couldn't get on a stream last night, but I did put a video out just a couple of hours ago. Please do check it out if you've not seen it yet. Obviously about this ceasefire breach, the attack by Israel. Attacks plural, as it is now, it's continued today. I'll be going on about that and the latest details after PMQs. And a little more, because I'm worried that we're not going to be short of content for the latest austerity that Labour's bringing in, even. Red F, great to see you. Solidari-Tea. But yeah, it seems to be non-stop now. The Turbo Tories in red rosettes continue to target the poor and the disabled. It is a travesty, Davinia. Good tea pun. We do like a good tea pun here on the Brews at 10. Alright people, I'm obliged to take a moment to thank all of the members as well on the channel, as I like to do towards the start of every stream. Thanks for all of your recent memberships, people who've gifted memberships. Also, to those of you who've renewed recently, thanks a lot. You can join this list of awesome people for just 99p. A bargain. You get lots of perks. Hit the button, check them out, come and join the brew crew. Just a fraction of the price of a tasty hot beverage. Whilst I'm doing shout outs and promotions, just want to thank Helena again for the raid on Monday's live stream. Yes, Mobius, who are these people who are agreeing with Diane Abbott for the first time? As if, as you say, she hasn't always championed the marginalised. And she has been smeared. Yep, Red F Kit, thanks for throwing up the static emojis. Another massive thank you to all of the members there. Let's bring you good people up in the chat. See where you are, people. There we go. There you are. Yeah, she has, that is Diane Abbott, has gone against the grain. Most certainly. And let's hope that people within Labour actually start to take action as well. There's a lot of talk in the air about potential splits and disagreements and this kind of thing. Clive Lewis has said how disappointed he is as well, the likes of Richard Bergen. I'm hoping these cuts make an appearance at PMQs. I guess we'll go into that as we get through the session earlier today in the House of Commons. Even some of the centrists are catching on now. Yeah, that's true. They're very slow. You know, they were in denial for quite some time, weren't they? I certainly had some debates, if you want to put it that way, on social media, back and forth. There wasn't so much debating going on their parts, respectively, more than blind faith, you know. But even back when Starmer was standing for leader, and shortly after, you know, I was warning them, others were warning them. And now here we are. So they're quite slow to catch on. It's all academic now. They got what they wanted, you know. In a way. Only in the sense that they won the election, of course, but it's turned out to be a somewhat hollow victory. My pal Foot, great to see you. Now the comedy clip tonight's comedy clip is inbound. Then we'll dive straight into PMQs after that. I can't be on too late this evening, so we'll digest that and the other stories, playing Keith's catchphrases as we go. I'll explain about that and the rules when we shift over to the House of Commons. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, and there have been some recent changes in the rules, so listen closely, yeah. Alright people, so this is the latest from Larry and Paul, Exploding Heads, and of course Colin from Portsmouth.
Colin from Portsmouth is on the line. Hello, Colin.
Why are people crying into their oat milk frappuccinos about Labour's cuts to the benefit system?
Yep.
It's right and proper that they make it almost impossible to get help.
Well, you support the dismantling of the welfare state, don't you, Colin? I take it.
Look, my neighbour hasn't worked a single day since he was run over by the bin lorry, and yet I see him through the kitchen window having something to eat every single day. How's that?
Well, here's hoping he doesn't have 3 meals a day, Colin. That would be greedy, wouldn't it? The
exactly.
layabouts.
Look, I worked hard all my life until I retired at 42,
yeah.
And it makes my blood boil that lazy snowflakes just don't want to work. Plus, these days you can just tick a box saying, oh, I'm feeling a bit sad, and wallop, you can earn thousands. It's become a career for some.
Well, if it's a career, Colin, they're back in work, surely. So problem solved, isn't it?
If I cut my leg off,
yep.
fair dues. You can actually see I've got a missing leg. But mental illness is not visible. Therefore, it's way easier for shysters to cheat the system.
Well, it might be hard to prove, but that doesn't mean mental illness is any less legitimate, Colin.
What? Are you having a laugh? I've just cut my own leg off.
Yeah.
Surely that's proof I'm mentally ill.
It is, yes,
Plus,
it is.
I've now got a visible, no arguments claim for not being able to work. Look at my leg that isn't there anymore. Give me some money.
Right.
I should be able to claim benefits for this. And Starmer wants to stop it. It's outrageous. Not having it. Just another example of two-tier Kia. Anyway, mate, thanks for having me on. Love to the family.
Love to the family, Colin. Love to the family. Maybe you could feed your missing leg to your neighbour to help with his food bill.
What, and let him keep relying on handouts? Or leg outs? No, not having it.
Wonderful, yeah. Colin from Portsmouth. Yeah, do check out the Exploding Heads. Very good stuff. And Doc Davies is in the house. There is a doctor in the house. Great to see you once again. Rocking the Kia Hardy static emoji. And I can see some Corbins out there. Just one of the benefits of becoming a member on My Left Eye. So people, without further ado, I think may as well just go straight over to PMQs. I'll bring up the membership goal as well. Currently on 67 out of a goal of 100. So I'll keep that running live as well. And I'll start to explain about Kia's catchphrases. Oh yes. Right, so what triggers that noise? Well, there are two phrases, two words in this case. At the moment, two current contenders. And we do this to highlight just how frequently repetitive Starmer is. So these have to be said by Starmer himself. That's one of the caveats, one of the rules to the game. So the first is change. Oh no, sorry, we're gonna I did that last time. Okay, so we're gonna go with plan, and of course a very long-running contender, long-running champion prior to the rules being changed, that is. Deliver, when you'll see Postman Twat here. So you'll hear that noise if you hear Keith mention those two phrases, and I'm going to keep count here. It's reset to 0-0, and so we've got two contenders. Doc, it's in your picture. It's Kia Hardy. He was the founder of the Labour Party. Keir Starmer alleges that he was named after him, but yeah, I don't think Kia Hardy would approve. Oh, you mean your picture is in your avatar, or is in the static emoji? Are you setting a quiz question? Postman Twat and his black and white cat. Yes. How's the rest of it go? Early in the morning, austerity is dawning. Yep. The return of the sausages. That's reminding me about that one. Red F. Without further ado then, people. Okay, we all clear on the rules? So we're listening out for the words plan and deliver, respectively. Whoever wins this week will go on to be the champion. There will be a knockout this week. page. Good to go. Alright. Okay, open your ears and your left eyes, people. It's time for PMQs on the Brews at 10. Quality streaming.
Now we come to Alberto Costa, Prime Minister's questions.
Question number one, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last night I spoke to President Zelensky to discuss progress that President Trump had made with Russia towards a ceasefire, and I took the opportunity to reaffirm our unwavering support to the people of Ukraine. Mr.
That was an awkward conversation.
About the resumption of Israeli military action in Gaza. The images of parents carrying their children, young children, to hospitals have emerged over the last few days are truly shocking, alongside the sheer number of people who...
Sorry to come in so early, people. I'll try not to interject too much so early on, but that's got my piss boiling already. The crocodile tears over Gazans, is it, Keith? Supports Zionism without qualification, thinks they have the right to cut off food, water, electricity. They have that right. No, I'm not buying that for 1 second. It's an insult to intelligence, it's an insult to the British public, and it's also an insult to Palestinians to try and act sympathetic towards what Israel did yesterday and are continuing to do today, probably as I speak, right now. Double standards. No, it's beyond double standards, it's beyond hypocrisy. It's within the realms of gaslighting. It's evil. Okay. Right. At the risk of going off on a further rant, we'll continue from here. And yes, I've also noticed that Angela Rayner's got half a postman twat for her head this week. That's just the framing. Sorry, Angela. Not sorry.
Been killed, and we will do all that we can to ensure the resumption of the ceasefire, to get the remaining hostages out and to get aid that's desperately needed
Sausages.
in. Mr. Speaker, the whole House will want to celebrate the extraordinary life of Group Captain John Paddy Hemingway, the last known pilot of the Battle of Britain. The courage of his generation, the fearlessness, sense of duty and service secured our freedom, and we will never forget them. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such
sausages
later today.
Alberto Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Brain tumours kill more children and those under the age of 40 than any other cancer. Mr. Speaker, from time to time, all of us get constituents in our surgeries that tell us stories which really get to us and twang on the heart. Mr. Speaker, last Friday, Laura attended my Sharnford constituency. She told me of the tragic death of her 6-year-old.
That is a shocking statistic that he gave at the beginning. I wasn't aware of that.
From a brain tumour.
Brain tumours.
All that she asked, Mr. Speaker, is that I raise this matter nationally, and I'm doing that now. But I'd like to go one step further. Would the Prime Minister agree to arrange a meeting for Laura and the brain tumour support group known as Angel Mums to meet with the relevant healthcare minister to discuss brain tumour research?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for doing what he was asked to do, which is raising this case here. The loss of a child is simply unbearable, and I think most of us, including myself, simply wouldn't know how we would be able to react. And I think the whole House will want to send its deepest condolences to Laura and to all of Taylor's family and friends. I will happily make sure that the meeting that he requests takes place so we can reassure that we are committed to supporting life-saving and life-improving research and doing all we can to improve how we prevent, detect, manage and treat cancer. Thank you.
Andrew Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The subject to that question was obviously a very serious topic, but just want to point out how the atypical cutaway to Wes Streeting with his over-serious look and nodding in assertion as though, yes, we'll get that. You know, that was sort of a planted question, I guess. But, yeah, just noticed that. It's always these little cut-offs to Wes Streeting, and he's always sat there with his phony serious expression and a overdramatic nod.
Like many people in Peterborough, I am passionate about tackling low pay and insecure work, especially for young people. Next month, many of my constituents will receive a welcome boost in their pay packets due to the increase in the national minimum wage delivered by the government. Can I thank the Prime Minister for ignoring the voices on the opposite benches who continue to oppose our plans to make work pay? And can I urge him to go further and faster in delivering our plan for change for working people?
That was a good
I
setup
thank him.
there.
It's a
Let's
superb job for Peterborough, and we're proud that our employment rights bill is tackling the cost of insecure work, and we're delivering that pay rise for 3 million of the lowest paid. We know the Leader of the Opposition opposes all that. She thinks the minimum wage is a burden and that maternity pay is excessive. It's the same old Tories. They opposed the minimum wage in the first place. They've learned absolutely nothing.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Beryl.
Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor claimed that her budget was a once-in-a-Parliament reset. So why are we having an emergency budget next week?
Mr. Speaker, we have delivered record investment.
Oh, another deliver there. Just as I was pausing it, I'll deal with that now. What's the point, you know, about having budgets? It's not as though the Tories only ever had one budget. Look at Liz Truss, for example, who lost to a lettuce. So that's 2-0 now to Postman Twat, who's off to a great start. Obviously sensing the threats, the recent threats, having lost a couple of weeks ago to the new challenger. So yeah, here comes the shouting into the mirror that we see every Wednesday. They're both accusing each other of the things that they're both culpable of. Yeah.
Into this country. Had 3 interest rates cut in a row, and wages are going up faster than prices, which is a massive cost of living boost. That's after only 8 months, after 14 years of absolute failure. What do they do? Interest rates 11%. Massive 22 million black hole in the economy. They crashed the economy. We're rebuilding Britain.
Mr. Speaker, he knows why we're having an emergency budget, because since the last one, since the Chancellor delivered her budget in October, growth is down, borrowing is up, and she has destroyed business confidence. Does the Prime Minister now regret raising taxes on business?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the OBR will present their numbers. There'll be a spring statement next week. But, Mr. Speaker, she still hasn't. We've got record investment into this country. Interest rates have been cut, and she talks about national
That's what they said.
We had to fill the 22 billion black hole that they left. We've invested in in the NHS, in schools and public services. We're pressing on with planning, with infrastructure and regulation. But I understand the Leader of the Opposition is straight talking, so perhaps she can help us with this. Is she going to reverse the next increase? If not, what's the point? If so, what other taxes is she raising to fill the hole? One way or the other?
You're in government. Speaker, the only black hole is the one that he is digging. Yeah. He's shown absolutely no regret, but everybody knows the Chancellor has made...
Kemi, you don't dig black holes. They form when a neutron star collapses in on itself and under the weight of its own mass and gravity turns into a black hole. But yeah, there were quite a few though, weren't there? That used to be a contender. They would have been about 6 or 7 nil up.
A mistake. That is why they're having an emergency budget. Later today, Conservatives will vote to exempt hospices, pharmacies and care providers from her national insurance rise. Will he, at the very least, support exempting...
Bird's Nest, great to see you as well.
...from his jobs tax?
Prime Minister.
I noticed she didn't say they're going to reverse the national insurance rises. It's exactly what... She wants all the benefits, but they can't say how they're going to pay them. She carps from the sideline, but can't make her mind up whether she supports or doesn't support national insurance rises. We've made provision for hospices, we've made provisions for charities, but we had to secure the economy. We had to fill the £22 billion black hole that they disgracefully left.
Mr. Speaker, he hasn't made these provisions. He keeps talking
Black
about...
hole thing went quiet for a while, didn't it, people? But it will be back with a bang if it was still a contender.
Even children's hospices.
Of course, once you pass the event horizon, they're inescapable, really.
His MPs know that this could affect end-of-life care. So I will ask the same question again. Will he exempt hospices from paying his jobs tax?
Mr. Speaker, we've already invested £100 million for adult and children's hospices, an additional £26 million in funding for the Children's Hospices grant, but we can't get away with what we were doing in that budget, the root cause, which was fixing the economy they left so badly damaged, a £22 billion black hole. Perhaps you start the next question with an apology.
Yeah, exactly, Morbius. Cuts are the opposite of investment. So how can there be record investment when there are further cuts being made?
We can swap sides. I remember when he made that announcement. He's forgotten because the money he's referring to for hospices is for buildings. It is not for the salaries hit by the jobs tax. As St Helena Hospice in Colchester said, we cannot use this funding for salaries, which is where we need urgent help. Why is the Prime Minister not listening to hospices?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've already set out the position in relation to hospices. She says that she wants to swap sides. I mean, heaven forbid. After 14 years of breaking everything, we're getting on with the job of fixing it, and all she can do is cart from the sidelines with absolutely no policy.
Mr. Speaker, winter fuel payments have been snatched. The jobs tax is hammering everyone from business to charities. The Chancellor promised a once-in-a-Parliament budget.
That hat from the sidelines without policies thing was exactly what the Tories were saying this time last year as well. Do you remember?
There will be no extension of the freeze in income tax thresholds. Ahead of the emergency budget, will he repeat? Mr. Speaker, ahead of the emergency budget, will he repeat the commitment that she made?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, she's got such...
You should be taxing the rich there. Good point there, Clive, yeah. This swap, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Just give Keith a wig and Badenoch a robotic nasal voice, and there you go.
She was the cheerleader. They crashed the economy. Mortgages went through the roof. The NHS was left on its knees, and they hollowed out the armed forces. This government has already delivered 2 million extra NHS appointments, 750 breakfast clubs, record returns of people who shouldn't be here, and a fully funded increase in our defence spending. That is the difference that a Labour government makes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A lady came to see me recently who needed help. She had a disability. It meant that her children have to help her cut up her food. They have to help her wash beneath the waist. They have to supervise her as she goes to the toilet. Under the Tory welfare system, we were able to get that lady on PIP. Under the Prime Minister's new proposed system, she will get zero. Nothing. And after 14 years of the Tory government, and many of us...
right there, Morbius, and Rachel Reeves is probably still guffawing as this story is being told. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I've lived with the impact of a disability in our family through my mother and brother all my life. I do understand the human impact of this, but the current system is morally and economically indefensible, and we're right to reform it, and nobody...
Well, I think austerity and cuts are indefensible when you could be taxing the rich, Starmer. What have we got to say about that?
Three principles: that if you can work, you should work. If you need help into work, the state should help you, not hinder you.
Rachel Reeves has turned ice cold now with the death stare.
They are the right principles.
She ages by the day, doesn't she?
As it is.
That's what the dark side does to you.
Can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks on Ukraine and Gaza? And can I also pay tribute to Group Captain John Paddy Hemingway and all our heroes from the Battle of Britain? I know that members across this House will, like me, have heard from GPs, dentists, community pharmacists and care homes who are all deeply worried about the impact of the national insurance rise on the services they provide to patients. That's why the House of Lords passed a Liberal Democrat amendment to exempt NHS and care providers. That amendment comes before this House this afternoon, but we're hearing worrying reports that the Prime Minister will order Labour MPs to vote against it. Will the Prime Minister reassure this House and patients across the country that these reports are not true?
Prime Minister.
Can I start by pointing out that
you can start by answering the question, Keith, unless you're trying to dodge it because
we were able to put record amounts of
the
money
rumours are
into
true.
our National Health Service, and vitally important that we did so. And it isn't right to simply oppose the measures we had to take to raise the money and at the same time say, as the Honourable Gentleman does, that he wants the benefits of the increase in funding for the NHS. The two can't sit together. We have already invested an additional £3.7 billion of funding into social care, including £880 million to increase the social care grant. So we are taking steps. But the basic point remains, which is we can't make the investment into the NHS if we don't raise the money. And you can't simply oppose any raising of money and at the same time welcome the money into the NHS.
Say it, Davey.
By that reply, and I hope he and the Chancellor will think about taking money from the NHS ahead of the spring statement and reverse it. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to turn to the issue of illegal hair coursing. Criminal gangs are terrorising rural communities across our country, from Cambridgeshire to Devon, from Oxfordshire to Wiltshire. Men in balaclavas are threatening and abusing farmers as these criminals tear across their fields in 4x4s. Farmers are warning that it's only a matter of time before someone is killed. So does the Prime Minister agree with me that we must act urgently against this appalling criminality? And will he back our calls for a comprehensive rural crime strategy so we can not just stamp out hair coursing, but keep our rural communities safe from all crime?
Prime Minister.
Well, I'm grateful to him for raising this important issue, and it is a matter of deep concern. We've already developing a rural crime strategy, but we'll happily work with him and others to develop it further.
Maurice Turner.
they need to do something about fox hunting as well
Are
while they're
deeply
at it.
concerned about the scourge of knife crime, and I pay
Because they're
tribute to the
absolute bastards
professionalism
as well.
of West Midlands Police for their response to these horrendous attacks. But there are still 1,200 fewer police officers and PCSOs in the force than in 2010. A new bid has been submitted to the Home Office for 150 more officers. Will he look at this issue so that the police can do more to keep our streets secure and safe?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I join him in commending the West Midlands Police for keeping his community safe? We are doubling our investment to £200 million towards the recruitment of 13,000 neighbourhood police, giving every community a named officer to help tackle violent crime. And we're currently working through bids with forces to ensure that we do so, and I'll make sure he gets a meeting with the relevant policing minister to discuss.
Solidari-Tea.
Mr. Speaker, we have a deeply unfair, unequal economic system where vast numbers of people are struggling, yet billionaires are getting richer and richer. Does the Prime Minister really think that the way to tackle this is to put the onus onto older people, children, and now sick and disabled people, rather than on the shoulders of the super rich with a wealth tax, those people who could most easily afford to pay? And if the Prime Minister uses the phrase difficult choices in his answer, please will he specify difficult choices for whom?
Well,
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we do have a proportional tax system, and we have raised tax on the wealthiest under this government. But her advice would count for a bit more if their manifesto hadn't been a recipe for £80 billion of extra borrowing. That is to do exactly what Liz Truss did to the economy, and that doesn't help any of the people that she's claiming to.
I think Davinia was keeping count at one point as to how many, I'd lost count myself, how many times they said black hole. But if you put a 2% increase on any assets of £10 million or more, then that would raise about 28 billion. And we pointed that out on Monday's live stream as well, when we talk about that Diane Abbott clip from Radio 4. So there are all your black holes out of the window, Keith, and no, they haven't taxed the super wealthy under this government. Certainly not anywhere near as much as they should have done. Certainly not as much as they've come after the poor, the out of work and the disabled, and pensioners, and students, and I could go on ad nauseum. But that's the elephant in the room that he wants to ignore.
To support.
Mohammed Yazid.
Mr. Speaker, I welcome the government's ambitious growth plans for Oxford-Cambridge Arc, which promises to reverse years of decline and transform the eastern region by driving prosperity, creating jobs, and delivering much-needed housing. But does the Prime Minister agree with me that the crowning achievement of this plan would be the establishment of a world-class theme park in Bedford Borough? It would transform our local economy, create thousands of new jobs and opportunities, and elevate Bedford as a national hub for leisure and tourism.
Prime Minister.
Well, he's right to raise this important project, which we are working for, and it's vital that we do unleash the potential.
Yeah, it could have the world's biggest ghost train or ghoul train, and it'd just be a litany of pictures of Rachel Reeves, Keir Starmer and his other cabinet members, and then at the end someone dressed like Liz Kendall comes and literally mugs you on the spot. Is that what it'd be like?
Of young people
Labour
with eating
world.
disorders.
You could call it.
This year,
you call it
despite
neoliberal
30%
world
increase in
or
referrals,
something like
the
that.
majority of ICBs have cut real-term funding. Currently, as I've seen in my own family and my weekly surgeries, those who reach out for treatment are told, in effect, come back when you're thinner, increasing both the human and financial costs of treatment. Does the Prime Minister agree timely intervention is critical, and will he meet with me to discuss how we fund it?
Prime Minister.
He's right. Too many people with eating disorders are not getting the treatment that they need.
So I'll just pause this.
The NHS is
again, serious topic, but the amount of times we're seeing in PMQs. It's just the meeting set up in public. So I need a meeting to talk to you about this. And then you go, yeah, I'll set you up a meeting. You seldom hear anything about it again. But it's hardly the fiery debate that we're used to at PMQs in Parliament, or at least that we saw, say, for example, this time 10 years ago up till around, 2020.
Expanding eating disorder treatment services with a focus on accessing treatment earlier and closer to home. And we're also providing access to specialist mental health professionals in every school. And I'll make sure that he's kept updated.
Paul Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Labour's flagship crime and policing bill is designed to tackle the rise in antisocial behaviour, theft and shoplifting that has occurred under the Tories. It grants police the power to confiscate disruptive off-road vehicles. This measure will tackle the scourge of off-road bikes in my constituency. Does the Prime Minister agree that we are the party of law and order and that we are fulfilling our commitments?
That's literally supposed to be the Tories being party of law and order traditionally, of course. Now they're claiming the accolades
our bill
themselves,
gives police forces
gloating about how Tory they are.
seize them immediately and put a stop to antisocial behaviour. That's our plan for change in action, making our streets and communities safer.
Danny Kruger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After 14 years to get ready, they came into power with no plan to reform welfare. But now, in a panic because of their economic mismanagement, they're cutting benefits for disabled people without consulting them at all. It probably says in his folder that the High Court ruled the Conservatives' consultation was too short, but at least we consulted. They're not consulting at all. So will the Prime Minister explain why he is doing things to disabled people and not with them?
No, what it says in my folder is they had 14 years, including five with a majority of... They didn't need to consult, get on with it. They had a majority of 80 for the last 5 years. They're now carping on with some of their ideas. 14 years.
Majority of 80 because of the likes of him.
They simply broke the system. They're in no place to lecture other people.
You open the fucking door for them.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. According to the charity Shelter, there are more homeless children in my city of Edinburgh than there are in the whole of Wales. That's an appalling legacy of 18 years of SNP government. Does the Prime Minister agree with me there should be no homeless children? And will he work with me, the Scottish Parliament and anyone who'll listen to end child homelessness in Scotland?
Well, the situation he describes an appalling indictment of the SNP record. The party opposite left record homelessness in England. The SNP record is equally shameful. A record number of children in temporary accommodation. Mr. Speaker, we're investing £1 billion to tackle homelessness. We're abolishing no-fault evictions and building 1.5 million new homes. Meanwhile, the SNP have cut their affordable housing budget. They've had the largest settlement since devolution. They've got the power, the money. Now it's time they started delivering.
It just delivering now.
This morning, I received an email from Santander informing me that both the Bognor Regis and the Rustlington branches in my constituency are set to close, with 4 other bank branches shutting across the constituency in 2023 alone. The most vulnerable members of our society are being gradually cut off from essential banking services. Small cash-based businesses will also struggle to deposit their takings, faced with the added burden of travelling to Chichester or Worthing, making it even harder for them to operate. So what decisive action is the Prime Minister taking to guarantee that people and businesses in my constituency and across the country are not left without access to cash and vital banking services?
Mr. Speaker, we are rolling out 350 banking hubs across all communities, and I'll happily arrange for her to have a meeting with the Minister to discuss how that might affect her constituency.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Firstly, I welcome the Prime Minister's announcement of £200 million from the National Wealth Fund for the industrial future of Grangemouth. But today, I want to ask specifically about the workers facing redundancy. Given the assurances from the Prime Minister on the 18th of February and repeated by Anna Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader, as recently as the 4th of March, can the Prime Minister confirm that the guarantee given on 18 months pay protection for all of those workers losing their jobs due to the Grangemouth refinery closure will be honoured, including those shared services workers, and say how the payment can be claimed by all those affected?
Quite mild today.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Petroenius have said that every employee made redundant will get 18 months full pay. The Project Willow report that's come out today says how we can support a sustainable industrial future for Grangemouth, which is incredibly important, delivering jobs and economic growth. As he references, I've announced £200 million through the National Wealth Fund to secure the site's long-term future. And of course that's backed by the £100 million Falkirk and Grangemouth growth deal, which is training and the training guarantee to support workers into good jobs. They're all the actions that we were taking on this very, very important issue.
Nick Timothy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, the House of Lords considers the Infected Blood Compensation Scheme regulations, which diverge from the proposals of the inquiry report and the government response. The regulations introduce new exclusions, treat victims inconsistently, and downgrade some previously agreed awards, such as that to my constituent Owen Saville. Will the Prime Minister remember the promise made to victims like Owen and think again?
Well, the victims of this scandal have suffered unspeakably, and I'm pleased that at the budget we set aside the £11.8 billion to compensate them in relation to this appalling scandal. I would gently point out that the party opposite was committed rightly to this compensation, but didn't provide a single penny in the column to pay for it. The Infected Blood Compensation Authority has been established and began to make payments last year. Over £1 billion interim payments have been made, and we do remain completely committed to cooperating with the inquiry and acting on its recommendations.
Elise Midgley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Everyone is talking about Adolescence, the series by Knowsley's own Stephen Graham and Christine Tamarco. It highlights online male radicalisation and violence against girls. The creators of the show.
I've heard about this. A couple of people were telling me about this recently. So it is a really good drama. Stephen Graham's very good in most of the stuff that he's in. A lot of the stuff I've ever seen him in. Tackling serious issues.
We are watching Adolescence with our children. I've got a 16-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl. It's a very, very good documentary to watch, or drama. This violence carried out by young men, influenced by what they see online, is a real.
I bet he's never heard of it. That was. He was struggling there.
Tackle it. We are putting in specialist rape and sexual offences teams in every police force, doing work on the 999 calls. But this is also a matter of culture that I think it's important that across the whole House we tackle this emerging and growing problem.
Helen Maguire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's only become a problem because there's been a TV drama about it. The issue didn't exist before then.
Shown that the majority of Brits support this idea, including my constituents in Epsom and Ewell. A well-structured and controlled scheme would show that the government is serious about providing opportunities for young people and backing British business. So will the Prime Minister stop sitting on the fence and finally commit to a youth mobility scheme?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we are working closely with our European colleagues and the EU in particular, and we are working to a reset of the relationship. We won't be returning to freedom of movement. I've made that repeatedly clear, but we're making good progress.
Orrin Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The previous government failed to properly support further and adult education over the last 14 years. And in contrast, the Prime Minister's personal commitment to technical qualifications has been encouraging. Last year's budget provided a welcome boost to some parts of the sector, but need and demand is outstripping available funding. Skills are crucial to the government meeting its missions to deliver economic growth, build 1.5 million homes, and to transition to a green economy. Can the Prime Minister provide reassurance that the funding model will be reviewed?
It's like a chatbot wrote this question.
Turn people away who want to gain the skills that our country so desperately needs.
Prime Minister.
Well, she's right. Further education plays a critical role in giving young people the skills and confidence that they need, and of course the training we need for the future. We are investing £400 million on education for 16 to 19-year-olds this year, and our levy-funded growth and skills offer will create jobs in key industries, and I can assure her that the funding will deliver enough places for young people.
John Cooper.
Speaker, thank you. Large spending announcements for defence would make you think that Britain is marching us to war, but the MOD is bimbling along with procurement systems better designed for peacetime.
I think that could be an unassailable lead now, people. 6-1.
To bring British industry into this fight, and quickly.
Prime Minister.
So, yeah, are we getting
yes, but they did leave a bit of a mess that we are clearing up, having hollowed out our armed forces and having not made the necessary investment that we needed in our defence. We've announced the largest sustained increase since the Cold War of 2.5% by 2027 and 3% in the next Parliament, subject to economic circumstances. So yes, we are getting on with the job and clearing up the mess that they left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituency, Stratford and Bow, has the greatest number of high-rise buildings with dangerous cladding in the country. On Friday, I visited Stratford Fire Station. Our brilliant local firefighters told me that 77 high-rise buildings in Newham and 165 high-rise buildings in Tower Hamlets are covered in hazardous materials, many of them deemed unsafe. Thousands of my constituents have been calling for justice for years. Can the Prime Minister tell me what the government is doing to ensure that private developers are held to account for the dangerous cladding on the high-rises that they have built?
Prime Minister.
Well, she's right. Remediation has been far too slow, and everybody deserves a safe and secure home. We've signed a contract with 54 major developers who will pay for or fix over 1,700 buildings, and we're accelerating that progress. We will take tough action against those who evade their responsibilities. We will recover taxpayers' funds and make sure those responsible pay up and fix unsafe buildings quickly.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I come to this chamber, Mr. Speaker, every week to ask sensible questions, and I expect sensible answers. But all I get is glazed expressions and waffle from the opposite benches.
Which party are you in this week, Lee?
Very simple question. On behalf of all the net zero sceptics, if we became net zero tomorrow, by how much would it reduce the Earth's temperature by? Simple question.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, net zero is of course not easy, but it's a huge opportunity.
Right, where do you start with that one? First of all, net zero is an accounting scam. If he wants to talk about zero carbon emissions, which is what it is, then it's very difficult to put a precise figure on how much it'd be reduced to, but it certainly wouldn't be exponentially rising like it's doing at the moment. He's trying to sound like he's being clever, but he's just denying, the science. Again, thinks he's being clever. Leanderthal, 30p Lee. He's had more parties than Paris Hilton.
To boost our growth, our jobs and our economy, and so he knows my views on that. But he complains that I've better ideas if they stop fawning over Putin. And I understand the member for Clacton wants to be Prime Minister. He can't even lead a party that fits in the back of a taxi.
Anna Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 1 in 5 disabled people in social housing and 1 in 3 disabled private renters live in inaccessible housing. One of my constituents with severe fibromyalgia and PTSD lives on a first-floor flat with no lift access. As we build the 1.5 million new homes that this country needs, will the Prime Minister ensure that they are built to be accessible and adaptable so disabled and older people can live independently for generations to come?
Prime Minister. She's right, everybody needs to be able to access a home that is suitable for them and meets their needs. The planning rules, Mr. Speaker, already mean councils must consider the needs of disabled people when planning new homes.
Hey people, is there an issue with the mic? The level's a bit low. Alright, just bear with me. I've got some got some filters and such on here. I've just had a quick dabble. Is that any better? A bit low? Okay. I've got a good level on the EQ. Just let me know that it's coming out okay at your end. Better? Yeah. Okay. All good. Crack on. Not much further to go. It does look like Postman Twat has delivered once more.
Homes. We will go further, setting out our policies on accessible new homes very shortly, and we're boosting the Disabled Facilities Grant by £172 million, helping more people make vital improvements and live independent lives.
Lee Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Despite Ukraine being the victim in Russia's illegal aggression, President Zelensky has shown leadership to his people by committing to the US plans for a ceasefire. However, it's clear that Putin is playing for time and still carrying out daily attacks on Ukrainian people. So, Prime Minister, is now not the time to take those frozen Russian assets to...
Is that any better? Bit louder. Testing, testing. A friend of mine runs a venue and he's got a Hungarian sound engineer. He's got a check 1, 2. I said, he's got a check 1, 2. Anything? No? Oh, okay. Right, back to Captain Combe over here.
Well, on both points, I spoke to President Zelensky last night following the discussions yesterday to discuss the way forward. On the wider question of the assets, look, it's complicated, but we're working with others to see what is possible.
Speak up, Keith.
It isn't straightforward.
Ewan Steinback.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The release of Project Willow today is a step forward in securing good jobs and an industrial future for Grangemouth. However, the Government needs to work at pace to ensure the recommendations in Willow are acted upon. Can the Prime Minister outline what steps he will be taking to ensure barriers to a rapid transition at Grangemouth are removed and investment is progressed as quickly as possible?
Well, I'm very grateful for him for raising Grangemouth again the second time in this session, and that's because it's centrally important. He'll have heard what I had to say.
Yeah, I'll keep turned down on purpose just because I'm sick of his sick of his bullshit.
And of course, the £200 million of the Wealth Fund that I announced just a few weeks ago.
Sir John Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister and I disagree about much. The family farm tax, the NI jobs tax, and the cutting with the fuel payments, but we surely agree that the common good is built on public order. Crossbows in the hands of killers cost lives. They cost the lives of 3 innocent women last year. Now, the previous government launched a consultation over a year ago on the regulation of crossbows, their sale and use, and we've heard nothing since. They are as powerful as guns, as silent as knives. Will the Prime Minister agree for one of his ministers to come to the House before Easter to give us a clear instruction about what the government intends to do before any more lives are lost.
Well, I thank him for raising this, and he's right to do so. It's a shocking issue, and the case he refers to is a truly shocking case. I think that's agreed across the House. We are working on this, and I'll make sure that he gets an update to ensure that he's across the detail of what we're doing.
Final question, Diane Abbott.
But bombs in Gaza are fine, eh, Keith?
Most members of this House
It's Diane Abbott.
will be aware that the welfare system can be a nightmare to navigate and does indeed need reform. But could we have less of this rhetoric about his £5 billion package of disability benefit so-called reform?
I really love this, how in a very polite and official and parliamentary way, she's basically just telling Keith to shut the fuck up and stop talking bollocks, because she's sick of hearing it as well. Well done, Diane. Carry on. Let's carry on.
Being moral. There is nothing moral about cutting benefits for what may be up to 1 million people. This is not about morality. This is about the Treasury's
just a few
wish
seats
to
away from him.
balance the country's books
Fantastic.
on the back of the most vulnerable and poor people in this society.
Just before we get a ludicrous answer from Keith, I just want to go back a little. He couldn't even look her in the eye. He couldn't even turn round and pretend to look at her. It just cut away for a couple
For
of
what
seconds.
may be up to 1 million people. This is not about morality. This is about...
There. Look, he's pretending to write something down for his answer. But no, if a member of your own party, a few seats away, is making a very serious point about how full of shit you are, you know, at least have the courtesy to look them in the eye, just as you would do if they were asking a planted question so that you could nod along. Angela Rayner is glancing over. Rachel Reeves doesn't really want to know. Yvette Cooper, Liz Kendall and a few others are turning around to look at her, but the question is directed at him. It's Prime Minister's questions, not Rachel Reeves' questions, Liz Kendall's questions, Shut Up Wesley Streeting's questions. What a coward of a man. Let's see what he's got to say for himself.
The Treasury's wish to balance the country's books on the back of the most vulnerable and poor people in this society.
Mr. Speaker, she's a passionate advocate and has been for a long time on this issue, and I pay tribute to that. But as she rightly acknowledges, the current system is broken. And this is where I disagree with her. I think 1 in 8 young people, not in employment, training or education, that's 1 million young people. I think that's a moral issue, Mr. Speaker, because all the evidence suggests that someone in that situation at that stage of their life is going to find it incredibly difficult ever to get out of that level.
She's
of
seething, and I can clearly see why.
The opportunity and aspirations
bringing morality
of
into
my
it
values,
when he has
and
such
Labour
a
values,
lack of it.
about how we take working people forward. So I do see it as a moral issue. I'm not going to turn away from that.
It's an immoral issue.
That 1 million people, young people, are in that position, and I'm not prepared to shrug my shoulders and walk past it.
That completes Prime Minister's...
My goodness, but you're prepared to shrug your shoulders and walk past 1 million people who are going to be disaffected massively. Excuse me. Some of them really to the extent that it's going to have a serious impact on their lives. And he won't only shrug his shoulders and walk away, he'll look down on those people as he continues to attack people who are out of work, low incomes, people who are on disability benefits, and Diane Abbott wasn't keeping a very strong poker face there in a response to Keith's response, if you with me, to his reply, and 100% agree with Diane Abbott's sentiments there, as well as how she feels about Keith's comeback to it. Very poor indeed from Keith. Well said there, Diane Abbott.
Just question.
Well, that was the last question. That was the last question. Going out with a bang. Well done. Again, Diane Abbott, fantastic stuff. Awful from Keith, of course. Lest we'd expect any difference. But an absolute rout. Someone's back on good form. Postman Swat. He was on the ropes. But a 6-1 victory in Keith's catchphrases. If you want to know the difference between the traditional Labour Party, how it was founded, how it was as recently as the 2015 to 2020 period under Corbyn, compared to what it is now, the neoliberal shithouse, the turbo Tories in red rosettes, then that question alone, I think, absolutely sums up just how far they've gone. The apple has fallen very far from the tree, and Keir's namesake and founder of the Labour Party, Keir Hardie, who I mentioned earlier, who's available on one of the static emojis, by the way, would be absolutely repulsed at what has happened to his creation. But yeah, Kit, it's easy to be defeatist at the moment, if you will. It's not a great political situation when you look at the polarity of the so-called main parties, as well as the apparent rise of the far right as well. That is just in the UK, let alone what's happening globally. I think that stands as all the more reason for people to come together and fight against it. Whether it's in the ballot box, whether it's on a picket line, whether it's on a demonstration, or even taking non-violent direct action. A revolution is coming, as I've said before. That's guaranteed. It's just, as Kevin Anderson put it so succinctly, whether it's going to be violent or velvet does remain to be seen. So there's either got to be a revolution in change, that is real change, not just on environmental issues, lots of socio-political issues. Otherwise, the other option is a violent one, and that's one that we don't want. And we're talking about phrases, you know, the old adage, a society's only 9 meals away from a revolution. When the wheels stop turning, when people can't get access to basic food, services, goods, this kind of thing. It's happening in an ever-increasing fashion these days. Say one day the whole thing came to a crash. The supermarket shelves were empty. On the 9th day, that's when things would start to turn ugly. And that's a common thing in sociology. So yes, we must fight against this, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, they, thems and comrades alike. And that's why we're here on My Left Eye, a channel made by socialists for socialists. So we do what we can. Right, so that's another week's PMQs taken care of. I'll just remove the scoreboard, if you'll bear with me. 6-1, that's quite a drubbing, you have to say. Before I go on to a couple of other bits, I just want to remind you all, please hit thumbs up on the stream. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Maybe you're watching back on replay, you're not a member or a subscriber already. Please hit subscribe. If you're listening live and not subscribed, you can jump in the chat just 60 seconds later. Give us a share across your social media as well, please do. And give us a follow while you're there. We're available at My Left Eye UK on Twitter, Mastodon and Blue Sky. Alright, I'm going to move on to something else in just a sec, people. Yeah, we'll take a look at the latest in Gaza in just a moment. Just want to catch up with all of you in the chat. Doc Davies, I totally agree with that point, and that comes from me speaking as someone who takes non-violent direct action. I've also been on protests and demonstrations in huge numbers that unfortunately don't get as many column inches as say a spraying action, a road blocking action, all these kind of cultural actions that you see in organisations like JSO and Extinction Rebellion and so on do traditionally over recent years. But I've been on demos and look at the amount of support at the Gaza demos recently as well. Very little mainstream media coverage. Basically a slim slither of an article on page 4 or 5 of a newspaper might be all that gets. And you're talking about numbers into the hundreds of thousands. Even on environmental demos as well. I've been on huge rallies and demos. Again, very little mainstream media coverage despite the numbers, despite the number of organisations involved. As well as some pretty well-known people in the UK, the likes of Chris Packham and others, often join campaigns and demonstrations at the moment. But maybe the Duchess of Kent is wearing an interesting coloured pair of shoes or something, and that certainly deserves more coverage. But, you know, that's the press that we've got. But regular viewers will be more than familiar where I stand on protest. Most certainly. I'm going to bring up the latest news feed from Gaza now, because this has been awful. Just a reminder, people, please do check out that latest video out on the channel, which concerns the events of yesterday, but there have been further airstrikes today, as I'm sure you know, and I mentioned earlier. Hundreds of people were killed yesterday. I still struggle with that ratio of 400 killed and 150 of them are children. That's a third. It's almost a third. And these are obviously illegal as well as immoral. They break the ceasefire agreement, no doubt. But even more aid workers, we've seen this with the IDF targeting aid workers previously, and that's happened again, unfortunately, this time around. Let's see what's happening, people. Just have a quick skim through this here article. And it's all just it's just Netanyahu's attempt to save his own arse. His arse is on the line, politically. A United Nations worker has been killed, others injured, after a compound in Gaza was damaged. That was earlier today, adding that the circumstances of the incident remain unclear. The Health Ministry blamed an Israeli strike, said 5 critically injured foreign workers had arrived in hospital. Of course, Israel, you know, the BBC have to sneak that in there. Guess what? In a shocking turn of events, Israel deny the thing that is clear to have happened, that is obvious to anyone that has happened, that there's an abundance of evidence for having happened. But the BBC think it's worth mentioning that Israel deny it. Funny thought just sprang to mind. When the 6 o'clock news comes on, or whatever news on the radio, when they do say it's whatever at 10 o'clock, of course not, because everyone's too busy listening to the Brews at 10. That was a silly example. But when they read out the date and the time, why don't they say at the end that Israel deny it? It's 6 o'clock, you know, on Wednesday the 19th of March 2025. But Israel would deny this. Yeah. You could tell them what day it was and even they'd deny it. So it's just the same as it was that short time ago, before the ceasefire came into effect. That was in the middle of January. Excuse me. But they claim that they're targeting Hamas, la la la. We won't stop until we get the hostages back. Just because he knows if they do enter phase 2, he's basically likely to get knifed in the back by his own cabinet. So the ceasefire deal in whole involved 3 stages, and negotiations on the second stage were meant to have started 6 weeks ago, but this didn't happen. Of course, you remember the furore about that, I mentioned that on the channel again. It was Israel who were guilty of breaking the ceasefire agreement. But under the proposed second phase that we're about to go into, Israel would withdraw troops from Gaza, but Israel and the United States instead pushed for an extension of the first phase, with more hostages being released in exchange for more Palestinian prisoners. They tried to change the goalposts, they tried to change the rules of the game. After it had started, what was agreed, and people went through such enormous lengths to be able to get that deal signed. They really did. The one that was brokered by Qatar and Egypt. A lot of people thought that would never happen. I'm sure Trump approves of those tactics as well, you know. Changing the deal after you've shaken hands. And of course, in his case, exchanged briefcases whilst wearing trench coats in underground car parks at night. So that's just a bit of a timeline there. Won't go through all of that. But there are supposed to be 24 living hostages remaining. As I said, I don't think this will increase the chances of them getting released. Far from it. Quite the opposite. With just 24 left. Of course, these hostages are Netanyahu's golden goose. He needs them for his apparent excuse to continue the occupation, these atrocities. They're still going to scream. They started it until they blew in the face. But of course that's a load of Zionist bullshit, as we know, people. So I think it's around 15 been confirmed today as well, just finally on that, but I really hope we're not getting dragged back into it, back to square one where peace is concerned, because Gazans have already been through so much, and especially now with Trump throwing his hat into the ring with his stupid plans, you know, for the Gaza Strip, the Las Vegas of Palestine, that he wants to turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East, I think he described it as, and all of that. But you're dealing with genocidal psychopaths, people. What else are we supposed to expect? I won't go into the latest on Ukraine, Russia. It's essentially just a series of phone calls and meetings that Trump says is going well. There haven't been any decisive actions or deals made as of yet. We know who wants what at this stage. Generally, but not the specifics of this deal. Of course, Russia and America just want to carve up Ukraine for themselves and are going to decide what to do with the natural minerals, the raw minerals, other resources, and so on and so forth. There are still actually a lot of Russians who are in shock and awe about this. People who lived through the Cold War, or perhaps even further into the past than that, and they cannot believe that there appears to be, you know, a huge collaboration between Russia and the United States at the moment. It's unheard of, but not in a positive way. Obviously, Trump thinks he can do politics the same way that he tries to do real estate deals, which again he isn't very good at. But it's a totally different breed, totally different ilk. He's going to fall flat on his face, and if anything, Trump is just a puppet for Putin, who can't believe his luck at the moment, I'm sure. And our regular viewers will know that I don't have a horse in this race, so to speak. I don't really have much respect for either Putin or Zelensky or Trump, for that matter. But that's just how I see things at the moment. Putin's got his big box of popcorn out. There were those attacks last week as well, of course, but since then things seem to have remained stable on the military front, so that's all I wanted to say about that. I won't go through articles and whatnot. Unfortunately, I can't stay on too late tonight, people. But before I do go, of course, I want to say another massive thank you to all the members on the channel. I'll just take the chat off for a few moments. Thanks again, everybody. Please do renew if you've got a renewal coming up, as I said. Thanks again to those of you who bought gift memberships recently. That's been a massive help. And it goes towards things like a new microphone, which you're listening to right now, people. So yeah, if you're not a member and you want to join this list, if you want to join the Brew crew, it's just 99p. So please check out the perks and consider supporting the channel. Members such as Kit, who's celebrating 8 months of membership. Well, that's fantastic. Solidari-Tea there, Kit, for sticking around on the channel. Always good to have you with us on the live chat as well. Solidari-Tea for that, Kit. Alright, let's bring you back up in the chat. So is anyone still live? Please do stick around, people. Could be doing a raid. Oh, and I'll give a shout out again to Helena at No Justice for the raid into the stream on Monday. Please check out No Justice. It's at No Justice MTG on YouTube if you don't follow the channel as well. Comes highly recommended for socialists. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone's live at the moment. Interesting. Well, yeah. It looks like everyone else has gone to get an early night as well. Okay then, people, that'll be it for me. From me, I should say. Seriously, thanks a lot for coming tonight. It's always great to see you and go through PMQs. It's just about the only way that I could bear to watch it, to be honest. Keep an eye out. I'm trying to push more streams through the later part of the week. I know I don't normally do streams on Thursdays and Fridays, for example, but do keep an eye out. Might be expanding the time frames soon. Hit the notification bell and all of that. Over the weekend though, I will definitely be on with the Sunday live stream, so please do join me then. Whatever you do for the rest of the night, enjoy yourself, people. Take care. I've been Lefty, you've been a wonderful audience. My Left, I'll be seeing you soon. Pre-Palestine and power to the people. Good night.